Hi. We're going to take a look at chapter 10, which is about work groups and teams. And on this second slide, what you're going to take a look at are four different types of groups. And you have everything from the task group, which is get the individuals together to solve a specific problem and then they go away. You have the cross-functional teams, which taking groups, people from every different part of an organization, put them together to help solve an issue. And then the self-management teams. These are individuals who are very well trusted within the organization, that they have their own projects, they do their own hiring, they do their own scheduling, and they are looked highly upon by the leadership. And there's also a lot of pressure in this group because they need to perform because of the type of work that they do. Now, my experience is more with a combination of the task group and the cross-functional teams. When I was at the newspaper, I led a task force of individuals from different parts of the newspaper. And what we did is create an ag production area using Max. And you have to remember, this was like in 1993. So the Max is in their infancy. And so we're learning about how the Max worked. We're learning about how to archive information, and it was all new. And we created a very successful program. And what happened here is that every person, even if we're from press room to sales and marketing, all had some input with this. And then, of course, once it was over, we all went back to our own department. So we were kind of like a hybrid between a task force and a cross-functional team. Now, there are 5 stages of group development, and everybody is going to go through this at some point. Some groups will have more emphasis on one area than another. Okay, so I just want to say not all these are going to be equal. It depends upon the group. Now, everyone goes through that first stage, forming. That's where the group starts getting together and meeting each other, whatever the case may be. Then there's the storming stage. The storming stage is where we're like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. And this is kind of like where you get some conflicts within team members, but that's okay because the conflict is good if handled properly. Third stage is norming, where we're going to meet, what's the agenda, who's doing what, what's the follow-ups. So we're kind of starting to get together with this group. Fourth phase, of course, is performing. Performing is actually doing the task. And then the fifth stage is an interesting one, the journey. Now, I've been part of teams and seen members of teams where the project was over, group project was over, and we were sad. We didn't want it to end. And then I've seen and been part of other groups who are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see people ever again. I don't want to work with you ever again. And I'm willing to bet either at school or at work, you have experienced every one of these stages. And with that fifth stage, the journey stage, you may be like, hey, I'm good. I don't want to work with you guys anymore. Or boy, I hope we get to work with you again. I hope it's that second one. I hope you get to work with people again. But, at work, you can't choose who your coworkers are. So you have to learn to work with them. So norms. Norms are simply when we're going to meet, who's going to do I hate to say this, but who's going to sit where at the table. Usually at the first meeting, you'll see people sit at specific areas. That's where they're going to sit for the rest of the time that the group is together. So these are these norms, little things about the groups. Now, conformity. Conformity is simple. Everyone is on the same page. We all meet at the same time. We all have the same type of agenda items. And hopefully this conformity builds strength within the group. Now, is it okay to be a nonconformist? At times. If the group is stale and stagnant in their ideas and stagnant in their progress, yes. Then let's get some nonconformity going and let's see exactly what we can do, and maybe we do something different. Now, I've mentioned to you before in other chapters about the ideal group size. 5 to 7 is pretty good. They do complete their tasks faster. There's less clicks, as we talked about before. And with a smaller group, the chances are you're going to get this job done. Now, the larger groups, I don't recommend large groups. I don't. I've been part of these. It doesn't work. The smaller groups I've been part of, they do work. And what happens is that, yeah, you can find facts, you get more people find facts, but you get, 5 to 7, you can find facts as well. You can also diverse input, depending upon the team that you pick and individuals, you can also find diverse information in the smaller groups too. So you see my bias here, and my experience is that 5 to 7's the ideal size for groups. Okay, groups versus teams. This is one of the things that you will also contend with both at school and at work. So in regards to goals, well, collective performance. We want to work together as one, be one voice at a work team. Whereas a group, maybe you're just contribute a little bit depending upon what the project is. I've been part of projects where one or two people will contribute more than the other three or four. And sometimes that happens, okay? It depends on what the type of project it is and also the expertise involved. We work our way down a little bit. Accountability for the work team, it's all, we're all one, just the same as we were at collective performance. Where in groups, it's the one person, each person's on their own. Okay. And then finally, work teams and skills. When you have a work team, you have person A from department A, person B from department B, and etc. In groups, you don't know who you're going to get. Like when I do my groups, assigned groups and classes, it's all random. And so you don't know. And I do that on purpose because like I said earlier, you don't have a chance to pick who your coworkers are. And so you're not going to have a chance to pick who your group mates are in school either, just to try to get you ready for that next phase when you start your professional career. But, and there's a huge but I want to add with this, and it's kind of a side note. When you are the leader, and all of you will be at one point, make sure that you give everyone in the organization a chance. Because what I've seen is that we'll get the same teams. We'll get Bill from IT, Mary from sales, um, John from marketing. And it's always the same people in the same teams. What happens when you have the same people on the same teams? The same ideas. Nothing changes. And so when you're the leader, shake things up a little bit. Instead of having John from marketing, use Sue from marketing, or use someone else. Don't always have the same people on the same teams. That's what I'm trying to say. And what happens is that you get more commitment from people in the organization. Plus, this allows you to see who the next leaders and rock stars are of your team. All right, so there's different types of work teams. There's a problem-solving team. If we have an issue, maybe we can solve it quickly for a team, 5, 7 people. We saw it last slide that we can do some issues rather quickly. We can solve those. We talked about self-managed teams a couple slides ago. We talked about cross-functional teams. Virtual teams I want to talk about. Now, virtual teams are interesting because the dynamic is similar but also different. Now, it's not to say that a team can't be functional virtually. They can. And I've worked with people that are, different parts of the country, and we worked. Yeah, it's just the same as, well, I shouldn't say the same, but it's similar talking over Zoom than a face-to-face going to the office. I can send emails as I would in a regular day. We can exchange files. We can do file sharing over Zoom. So you can do a lot of work. It's just a commitment, and you have to make sure that, yes, the screen's on. Yes, you're looking at the camera. There's not the noise in the background that might hamper communication. Now, you can't see all the facial functions or expressions, but you still get an idea what the person's thinking and what they're saying and what they think of different ideas. I support the idea of virtual teams. I think it works out well, at least from my experience. Now, one of the key words I want to focus on for this is work design. So that's going to be our first keyword of the chapter. And autonomy. We all want to be able to call our own shots and work the way we want to work. And this will take time. You learn the process. You'll learn what the company likes, what they don't like, and then they're going to give you more trust where you can work on your own. And we all like that. We all want that. So in using a variety of skills, that variety of skills could be writing, It could be communicating or verbally communicating. And remember, I've told you in previous chapters that you're going to be more judged on the spoken word than the written word. And you need to practice those skills. Other types of writing skills that we have is research, or talking to customers. So there's different types of skills that you can bring to an organization and to a work. Teams aren't the answer. And there might be times that teams aren't the answer. And can the work be done by one person? Is it faster to do it that way? It depends what the project is. If it's something that's really hot and the customer needs it right away, or the leadership team needs the answer right away, then that one person would be the answer. Is there interdependence between the tasks? And that's going to be our second key word, is interdependence. And the interdependence can be, can person A and person B do this individually and they collaborate the second and then to turn in a project? That might be the best way to do it as well. And you hear me use your term project. It could be a project at school, it could be a project at work. So I was kind of using those interchanging. So I hope you enjoyed the discussion for chapter 10. And if you have any questions, as always, please reach out. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in chapter 11. Bye.